Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm Sade. Thank y'all so much for joining me back on my podcast as well as my channel, Hidden Alchemy by Sade. For today's podcast episode, we are diving into why it is so important for you to focus on building your own ship. Now, I am really excited for this podcast episode because I have been focusing on building something of my own for the past, I would say, 3, 4 years. I would definitely say longer than that, but more consciously and more intentionally for the past 3 to 4 years. So, before we dive into this topic, I do want to make it very clear that the purpose of today's episode is not to convince everyone to become their own entrepreneur and to be their own business owner. No, because in a realistic world, you need the people who are the entrepreneurs and you need the people who are the workers. That's just life and that's just the reality of life. However, the purpose of this podcast episode for today is to inspire those who are sitting on brilliant genius ideas to get up and to get moving and going on building your own ship and really just building something of your own that you can be proud of and that people can't take away from you no matter what, because it is something that you have built for yourself. So let's go ahead and dive into this topic of why it is so important for you to build your own ship. Now, a brief story for me, I did not grow up with anybody in my immediate home who was an entrepreneur. My dad worked in law enforcement, my mom worked in medicine, and though they did not specifically want to be entrepreneurs, they did work in the fields that they wanted for themselves. And that just taught me at a very young age to go after the things that you want, put in the hard work and the discipline, and you will get there. But I've known from being, even in my teens and my early adult life, my early 20s, that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to just have something that I built, not specifically because I didn't like working for other people, but more so because I'm such a creative person that I really wanted to focus my energy and my creative talents on building something of my own because I had my own creative ideas. And when this idea really started to take off for me was when I lived in China. So I lived in China from about 2014 to 2017, right when I graduated undergrad. And the backstory to that, I loved my undergrad experience. I loved academia, but I knew that I wasn't ready to spend my young youth years being in the classroom. I was like, I want to go away. I want to travel. I want to learn. I want to build. I want to work. I want to get my hands dirty and be on the ground. So I had studied abroad in undergrad, loved my experience, decided to move to China. And living in China, I was immersed into the entrepreneur world because there are so many foreigners out in so many different parts of the world, not even just China. But if anyone here watching this video has ever traveled to China, you know how many expats are out there building their own businesses. And the city that I had lived in, Shenzhen, which was a huge metropolitan city right on the border of Hong Kong, there were so many young people there growing and building because it was a new up and coming city in mainland and it was at the south of China. So it was so connected to Hong Kong. So there were constant expats going in and out. So, me being 21 years old, I'm in this whole foreign country. And me, I'm such a curious soul, so inquisitive, and very easy to make friends. So I was able to connect with people from all age groups. I had friends in my 20s, their 30s, and their 50s, their 40s. And a lot of these folks were entrepreneurs. And that was my immersion into the entrepreneur world. Because as I said in the beginning, I didn't have anyone in my home that was an entrepreneur, but I knew I wanted to be a business owner. I just didn't have that image in front of me to see, okay, this is how you do it. So when I lived out in China, most of my friends, if they weren't English teachers, because back then, in order for you to get a visa to even get into China, you needed to have a company sponsor you. You needed to be an English teacher, which was how you got a company to sponsor you. You needed to have a business visa showing a specific business that you have based out of the US or China, or you needed to be a student. And of course, you could just do the local traveling visa and just live there illegally, which a lot of people did do. So that was how I got my foot in the door. I was teaching English, and through teaching English, I was able to meet other expats. These were people who were in the e commerce business, especially because China is the hub of factories. And where I lived specifically in Shenzhen, most of the factories were out in Shenzhen. So I was able to really get immersed into the e-commerce entrepreneur world, and I met people that had their own factories, had their own restaurants, had their own shops, their own businesses. I was around such creative energy, and these people poured into me. So even though I was 22 at the time, and back when I was in my 20s, I thought I was going to be in my 20s forever. So I never thought for the future necessarily, but I made so many connections and held on to these relationships where I was learning, okay, this is how it is when you have a business, or even this is how much wealth you can bring in just by building your own ship. I saw that with my own eyes at a very young age. And it's so easy to read books on being an entrepreneur and watch documentaries on building a business. But when you have people directly in front of you and they're pouring into you and you're seeing small seeds that you might not be able to understand at that point, but later on you will, these key things play a huge role in just being able to have the courage to say, okay, I can actually build something of my own. And while I was living out in China, I had a friend of mine who she was kind of like a mentor for me because she was older than me and she really poured into me. She was a Capricorn woman from Brooklyn, Trinidadian, which is wild because I'm a New York native. So I'm meeting another New York native from Brooklyn. I'm from the Bronx originally, out in China. So I'm like, okay, that's wild. But she had poured into me and she was a business owner and she had said, you're young, start something. Don't wait. Don't wait. Don't sit on your ideas. Don't think you're going to always have this youthfulness, this energy. Because at the time, I would say she was maybe about 36, 37, and her business was just starting to grow. And she was trying to have a baby at the same time. And she had just poured into me. I was what, 22 at the time, 23. And she was just like, start now, start young. And she planted that seed. I had no idea. I was like, I don't know what I want to start something in. I know I want to start something. I want to build something, but I have no idea what I want to build or what I want to start. But that seed was planted. So I had known, okay, this is the direction I'm going to be heading in. We'll see how it unravels and what happens. So fast forward, I moved back to the States. So I spent 3.5 years out in China from 2014 to 2017. I come back into the States, and that's when my yoga journey actually takes off. So when I was out living in Asia, my spiritual practice deepened and harnessed while living out there. But when I came back to the States, that's when I was able to take what I had learned out in Asia, find different yoga studios, because I knew going into my practice as I came back into the States, I was like, I'm definitely going to do my yoga teacher training because I am in love with yoga, meditation, and just holistic healing in general, which really began when I lived overseas. So by the time I came back into the States, I started to immerse myself into the yoga world. I got my yoga certification. I was teaching. I was literally on this peak. And then the pandemic happens. 2020 happens, and I literally lose everything, as many other people did. So this is not a woe is me moment. This is a moment of, okay, I'm on this climb, and then the pandemic hits, and I lose all my jobs. I have to move back home, which wasn't the worst thing in the world. Love my parents, but it wasn't the idea that I had in my mind. But when that moment happened, everything that I learned when I lived in China came back to me. Me speaking to my mentor at the time, and her message came back to me. The importance of building something of your own so that no matter what happens, you can have something to stand on. And once that pandemic happened, it was in that moment of 2020 that I had made the promise to myself that I was going to focus intentionally on building my own ship. I had no idea how exactly I was going to do it. I had no idea what would come of it, but I knew that I was ready and I was in a place of anger, of frustration. And the reason I was so frustrated was, you spend so much of your time and your energy building other people's brands, building other people's businesses. And then when shit hits the fan, you're just a number, right? And it's not good or bad, it just is what it is. And that was my reality, and I didn't want that reality anymore. I was like, no. I lived out abroad. I saw people build. I saw what can come of it. I've had seeds planted. Now it's time for me to just start. And it's funny because when that all happened, my dad had said to me, he was like, why don't you just get an LLC and start your own business? And he said it so nonchalant. And I remember just looking at him like, it's not that easy, right? But he also planted that seed of like, you're ready, you can just do it. But at that time, I didn't have the confidence and the courage, but I had the fire of, I need to start. I don't know where it's going to land, but I'm ready to start. And something that I had always wanted to do, but really didn't have the time to do it, was start my own YouTube channel. And the reason being, when I had lived out in China, YouTube was banned. I mean, China banned YouTube, Instagram, what else? Google, everything was banned. Snapchat, all of the social media outlets that we use here is banned in mainland, unless you have a VPN. So, but even with having a VPN, the government is involved in, they can shut down the VPN at any point. It's just a mess. So that put a pause on me starting my own YouTube channel. And then when I came back into the States, I had kept going back and forth, back and forth. And then finally I was like, okay, let's just start it, but didn't have the downtime to really commit. So once 2020 happened, lost all my jobs, frustrated, trying to figure out how am I going to start something over for myself, I said, okay, let's go ahead and let's start our own channel. Who knows where this is going to go, but you've been sitting on this idea for a long time. Go ahead and just start, just try. So I literally get my laptop and I plop it on, like my parents had like a box that I can use to plop it on. And then I just start creating yoga videos, just creativity, just seeing what lands, seeing what doesn't land. And it was literally from that moment of having the courage to say, okay, I'm going to start this idea that I had. I have no idea where it's going to go, but I'm going to start. And from there, I was able to dive into my astrology. I said, I've been studying astrology for years. My friends know that I study astrology, but why don't I just put that on my YouTube channel and just put myself out there? And that's how it started. I just started building and creating and putting myself out there. And then over the years, it turned into, okay, what is my brand name? What is the theme going to be? And then Hidden Alchemy developed. And I said, okay, and what else am I going to talk about? And how am I going to use this as a way to inspire and help other people? And then the podcast started. So you never know what can happen when you just have an idea and just start it. Just start it. And from there, building my own YouTube channel and just starting to get in the hang of teaching digitally. And this is another thing I want to dive into for this podcast. We are in the technological age. So getting involved with the tech world, using social media, using channels, using AI, this is the world that we're in. We are in the tech entrepreneurial world. Now, I'm not going to dive into too much astrology, but just a little bit, because I know some folks are like, we didn't come here for that. We are in the Aquarian age energetically. Pluto's moving back into Aquarius. Saturn was in Aquarius for those entire 3 years. Let that sink in. Aquarius is the sign that rules technology as well as futuristic thinking. We did not start having a deep, intimate relationship with technology until 2020. Yes, we all were using social media platforms, but 2020 really forced us into having to have some sort of relationship with technology. And that was when Saturn went into Aquarius. So me also knowing the back end of astrology, I was able to say, girl, get involved with technology and start something. Start what you've always wanted to start and see where it lands. From me teaching digitally and perfecting my craft of teaching through using technology, I was then seen by other companies. And from there, I was able to land positions at different studios and then land my position with Lululemon and then land my ambassadorship, right? So now I can really take what I'm doing and go further forward, all from that moment of saying, I'm going to work on building something of my own. So you never know where things can take you. You really just have to have the idea and start. And the beautiful thing about being an entrepreneur right now is everything around us is gearing and pushing us towards that. You have 16, 17-year-olds that have cracked this code and they are making more money, okay, at 17 than a person who is 60 and has been working their entire life. And this is what I mean when I say, when you value yourself, this was in my previous podcast video of building self-worth and building self-value. When you start to see the value in yourself and see the value in your work, you really can have the confidence and the courage to take those creative ideas and run with it. Because that's what these young kids are doing right now on TikTok and all these other social media platforms. And even if you don't want to be on YouTube, you can have an e-commerce business. There are people that I know that sell butters and soaps and oils literally by using social media, literally by importing products from China and getting all of their jars together and their seals and their stickers or whatever creative ideas. You can just import them from other places and build your own stuff. We are really in an age where the idea of working for someone else is becoming more detrimental than working with people. And that's where I'm at in my journey, where I love collaboration. I love working with people. I love working with different companies. But the idea of working for someone, and the difference in that is me spending my 8, 9 hours out of the day to give somebody else all of my energy for them to be the millionaire. No, I would rather take all of my energy and pour it into myself, pour it into my own business, and I become the millionaire. That is the age that we are in right now because everything is about energy. Even when you look at the devices that you use, don't get it twisted. Technology, energy. That's why you can get very drained by simply scrolling and looking through all of these different news feeds and these different platforms and these tabs that you have. It's energy. So when you think about energy and you think about, okay, there's how many hours in the day? How many hours do I spend sleeping? How many hours do I spend on social media? How many hours do I spend giving my energy to other people when I can just take my energy and pour it into my ideas and build something of my own? It is literally it's literally not as hard as we think. It is challenging because you have to balance. Of course, we have to make money. So we cannot deny the fact that you can't just quit your job and say, okay, I'm going to start my own business, even though there are people who do it, right? But if you just think about how much energy you are giving to someone else's dream when you are just a chess piece on their chessboard, and just evaluate, if I take 4 hours out of that and give it to myself and give it to the idea that I have, you never know where life can take you, and you can literally have $1 million business. And that's how so many people start. The people that I was connected to in China, they weren't just people that had, regular startups. There were people that had their startups, and there were people that were multimillionaires that had their own factories. These were people that I was connecting with in my young years. So I was able to realize, like, damn, you just had that idea of just creating this, and now you have this multi-million-dollar business. And I'm like, okay, I kind of want in on that. I don't know how I'm gonna get there, but now that I see that it's possible, I'm gonna do that for myself. And that's literally the trajectory that I have been on. And the reason why focusing on building your own ship is so important in this day and age is because we are not in the same paradigm that we were in 2019, right? The whole purpose of 2020, and I'm not going to dive too much into that on this platform, okay? But that the whole purpose of 2020 was to put us in a whole different paradigm. That's why what worked in 2019 is not going to work now. And if you think about the state of our country and the state of the world, I'm not even going to say the state of our country, the state of the world, it is expensive to live everywhere, right? The cost of living is expensive everywhere. You can be in New York, you can be in Atlanta, you can be in Florida, you can be in Texas. Everybody wanted to move to the Carolinas and the down south and the this and the that, Wyoming, New Mexico. All of it is the same price now, right? So when you think about the cost of living that is rising, and you think about how much people are actually getting paid for the work that they are doing, it's not adding up. It's not adding up. The cap is staying the same, but the cost of living is rising exponentially. So the only other option, in my opinion, and this is just because I have been around so many different entrepreneurs, is to build something of your own so that you can be in control of your price and your value. But you cannot price your value until you know your value. Once you understand your worth and what you can bring in, you are not going to have someone cap you at a price anymore, right? You might be collaborating with them. And I know for me, I'm going to speak for myself. I work with people and I collaborate and do work, but any work that I involve myself in, if it is not benefiting my business, I am not giving my energy. And that's just how I operate. I know that that can sound really cutthroat, but when you're building a business, and again, it goes back to energy and it goes back to value. You cannot give and then not be poured back into. No, you got to make sure whatever you're giving your time and your energy into building for other people, that you're receiving something in the end that's going to help you with your stuff. If not, then it's not an even exchange. And what you're doing is making this person climb on their ladder, but you're still getting crumbs and chump change and the reverse. And that is not really going to help as we move forward. But with the rise of technology, it is not as difficult. I'm not going to say the admin work isn't difficult. Yes, you need discipline, you need commitment, you need consistency, and you need to work hard to build a business. That's just it. But think about from the 90s. I think about like my parents' time, the idea of actually building something when you actually needed to build something that was maybe a physical location. Yeah, it was harder then. But now we have such easy access to information and we have easy access to people. Use your community, use the people around you. We're here to work together, we're here to collaborate. Okay, so use the people around you that you can connect to on your device. You can connect to people around the world. There's people that I still talk to that live in China. You know what I'm saying? You can connect to people from all over the world now, which connects you to information, which makes it easier for you to build and create something of your own. Because the times that we're moving into, y'all, is things are changing. Things are changing and people are unhappy. Okay, that's definitely something that I am noticing, especially about my age group, because 30s, 30 people in their 30s are young. But what I'm realizing is people that have been doing a consistent job from their 20s that are now in their early 30s are like, what the hell am I doing? I don't even want to do this. And if I do want to do it, I want to do it my way and I want to build something from it. So, like I said in the beginning, the purpose of this podcast is to inspire. If you have an idea, get up and try it. Who cares if you fall? Who cares if you land on your face? Who cares if it fails? All you're going to do is learn how to make it better. And even with my YouTube channel, I am so close to being monetized that it's like, damn, if I would have known this before, I would have started. I mean, I still feel like I'm late to YouTube, but I would have started this eons ago. There are people that I watch that have been on YouTube for 15 years, and I'm like, I have my baby 3-year mark. And I'm just like, bravo, very proud of myself. But damn, I should have then hopped on the bandwagon. But it's not just YouTube. There's so many things that you can create. Life is so abundant. There are opportunities everywhere, but you have to believe in yourself and you have to trust that whatever idea that you have has been given to you for a purpose and for a reason, and you are worth trying. And it's through trying and through believing and having faith and conviction in your truth that you're going to be able to make things happen. But if you're listening to this and you're not happy at your job, you're not happy about what you're doing, and you have these ideas, go after it. Go after it. There are people out there waiting for your ideas, and there are people waiting for your services. I have clients now for astrology readings. I'm building my own coaching services. I have my channel. And then that's just the work that I do here, not talking about the work that I do in the community that I live in terms of teaching. So, like I said, I would never have thought that by starting something virtually 3 years ago, that it would land me a dream role of being on a global platform for the Mirror for Lululemon, as well as becoming an ambassador. So you have to really take these ideas that you have, believe in yourself, push forward, work hard, and collaborate with others. Do not spend your beautiful energy giving to other people to use for just themselves. No, find the value in you. See the value in you and use your energy to build your own ship. Because when shit hits the fan, you don't want to be in that crossfire and not have anything to stand on. And the thing about me is God only has to teach me once. Okay. When I got caught in that 2020 crossfire, I said, I will not be terminated more than once. I learned the lesson and I got right to work. And now I am where I am. And it's only been 3 years. So imagine where life can take you in 10. So, like I said, the purpose of this episode is to inspire those who have the vision, who have the fire, go after it and see what happens for yourself. In any case, y'all, thank y'all so much for joining me for today's podcast episode on why it is so important to just build your own ship. My name is Sade, and I will see you for our next episode.